Welcome back to Media Madness. My name is Thomas. Today we are again discussing California Governor Gavin Newsom, who had Sean Spicer, if you remember, Trump's first press secretary during his first term, on his podcast called This is Gavin Newsom. I had a hard time making this video because I know we like to have fun on this show and we like to mock people, especially Democratic politicians. I know we mocked Gavin Newsom last week for his poutiness at the Politico conference, but to be honest with you, the more I see from Gavin Newsom and the more I read about him, the more I'm filled with a growing sense of dread and concern. And I'll explain why, but let's watch this clip first.
And speaking of cable, I'm curious just your assessment. I think every year for the last many years, I don't even remember the last time it wasn't the case, but it seems 14 out of the top 15 most watched cable shows are Fox.
Yeah.
I think Rachel Maddow's the one exception, and she's just one day a week on Monday night. I mean, just right wing is dominating the nightly cable networks or cable more broadly. Why do you think that's the case?
A couple things. As I said, like when I grew up, like it was almost like living in a world where you didn't realize that you wondered why issues didn't get attention or covered. And when Fox came along, it filled a void. But if you think about what's on your cable dial right now, like Fox is the 800-pound gorilla, but it's alone. So you've got ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, all sort of focused on, at best, a left of center view of the world. And Fox kind of consolidates the right of center view of the world. And so I think for people who are going there, they're tired of getting one perception of the world and the news, and they've all consolidated around Fox. You look at a show like The Five; it's the most popular show, Gutfeld, in the evening. But I think part of it is a consolidation of viewership, right? So if you look at what they get, there's not a ton of competition on the right. When you look at what's right on the cable dial,
obviously Newsmax. I mean, obviously One American News trying to sort of
He does do this motion a lot. I kind of hate it.
Capture some market share.
Well, I think just as a side note, because full disclosure, I do contribute to News Nation. That's probably the most straight down the middle
center
outlet.
No, that was a good answer from Sean Spicer. I think he's making a good point about the consolidation of right-wing broadcasting as opposed to the balkanization of left-wing broadcasting. But I don't really even want to talk about that. I really want to hone in on the fact that this interview even exists. It's very difficult for me to imagine someone like Kamala Harris ever giving someone like Sean Spicer the type of day. And there's really nothing combative at all about Gavin Newsom in this interview. He's asking genuine questions to improve his understanding of the world, in this case, the media industry. And he did the exact same thing with Charlie Kirk, who was on this podcast a few months ago, and that interview wasn't combative at all either. So I'm going to skip ahead to a part where Gavin Newsom makes another comment that kind of demonstrates that he's willing to play ball a bit.
No, I love that. It's a great segue because I wanted to talk about that. I mean, I've had my own experience with Trump, obviously, as governor for 2 years, involved in, we were involved as a state with 122 lawsuits with the Trump administration. That said, and you may recall this, during COVID, we had a very good working relationship.
Right.
As a Democratic governor, we were constantly on the phone, working through issues. There may have been a lot of noise on True Social or Twitter, but we were actually constructive. But I will acknowledge things are radically different this second term, and I found them to be very different as well. And that's on the basis of a lot of interpersonal engagement. An hour and a half in the Oval Office. I think I was the first Democratic governor to spend that kind of time with them in the Oval Office. Phone calls since, and obviously we're going back and forth now. But I'm curious.
I've seen a few of those.
You've seen a few. There's a lot of it.
His hair looks kind of blue in this interview. I feel like he's dyeing it. But the point I want to make here is that it's strange to see a Democrat willing to give Trump his flowers a little bit here. And he says that during COVID, which he mishandled spectacularly, that he and Trump got along famously, that they had this very constructive relationship, that they were texting and calling all the time. I'm just having a hard time imagining any big-name Democrat, aside from like Bernie Sanders or something, having anything positive to say about Donald Trump at all. Can you imagine Tim Walz or Kamala Harris or AOC or Joe Biden, if he was conscious at the time, complimenting Trump even in the mildest of ways, as Newsom did here. What I'm getting at, and maybe it's obvious at this point, is that it's time to start taking Gavin Newsom seriously. The consensus seems to be that it's going to be J.D. Vance versus Gavin Newsom in 2028, and I agree. And the way the right reacts to this idea kind of concerns me, because I see this bravado, this like, oh, hell yeah, we're going to wipe the floor with him. I just fundamentally don't agree. And people try to argue, oh, well, Thomas, Gavin Newsom has been an obvious disaster for California. Look at the fires, look at the homeless problem, look at COVID. And while all those things are true, and I think it's important for J.D. Vance in 2028, if he's the nominee, to hammer in on those things, I just think it's dangerous to underestimate Gavin Newsom. He is a very shrewd, savvy, natural-born politician. It's kind of a trite observation, but I think it matters. If you could cast someone as an actor to play the President of the United States in a movie, that's probably a pretty good indication of electability. Gavin Newsom looks like someone you would cast in a movie to be the president. And recent polling seems to back what I'm saying up. There was a piece in Fox News about how J.D. Vance and Gavin Newsom are basically neck and neck in polls ahead of 2028. Let's watch.
Well, a new poll shows one Democrat surging in popularity, now becoming the favorite to win the party's 2028 nomination for president. That poll from Gallup found that 25% of Democrats now support California Governor Gavin Newsom to lead the party in 2028. That is a 9-point advantage over the number 2 candidate, which is former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, and a 14-point edge over former Vice President Kamala Harris. And get this, in a hypothetical matchup with J.D. Vance as the Republican candidate, Newsom and Vance deadlocked at 44%, while 12% said that they were undecided. And Emily, another thing in this I thought was interesting, if you look at the support for Kamala Harris.
I'm not really interested in listening to whoever these people are, but that's bad that they're neck and neck. I just hear people saying it all the time. There is no way that Gavin Newsom can beat J.D. Vance. I think he totally could. I suspect that he won't win in 2028, but it's important for Republicans to acknowledge that this is the toughest presidential hopeful the party has had to contend with since Barack Obama. And I'm going to fire off a few reasons why it has to be Gavin Newsom, and it almost certainly will be no one else. Pete Buttigieg, who is a bright guy, probably caps out at being a senator. Barack Obama, believe it or not, actually agrees with me on this. He correctly pointed out that he has no chance of winning, basically because he's short and gay. I'm not joking about that. You should Google it. J.B. Pritzker, he's a little more normal, but he suffers from the curse of Chris Christie, which is to say that he's fat. Kamala Harris will probably run, but won't win for obvious reasons. AOC is unelectable. I'm going to show you a very short clip of J.B. Pritzker talking about health as he walks around in Chicago.
I think so. And I just, there are a lot of challenges. I think people, all of us who went through COVID, that era, and understood all of the things that were weighing on us, and especially those of us who had to make decisions about how
it's a lot weighing on him
to keep everybody safe and alive. I think understand that, we are once again in a very trying period, that being healthy and, trying to, make sure you just have all of your energy that you can and keeping a good spirit.
Whatever, I don't care. I don't really care what he's talking about. I just wanted to show you that clip to make the point that Gavin Newsom understands optics and would never appear this way in a media interview. He would never walk around in a t-shirt, in sneakers, and in sweatpants, let alone looking like 20 pounds of shit in a 10-pound bag. And I promise you, the point of this episode was not to glaze Gavin Newsom for 10 minutes. It was to issue a warning of sorts. So anyway, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching Media Madness. Please like, subscribe, and comment below, and we'll see you next time.